I will ask one more question. Why did the Jewish community not feel loved and wanted when other people do?
Assembly Member Wilson.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Mr Mayor. And I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear me wanting to talk about this issue as well. You know, it's an issue I've been very passionate about over the last year and a half since I've been elected, and indeed before that. So on Friday, the Home Secretary asked protesters to show some love and solidarity to those who've been murdered and not go ahead with protests at the weekend. The Met Police made a with Assembly Member Hall, and we know what the context is. We found out what the context is on Thursday last week. For 2 years, we've had this untrammelled anti-Semitism, hatred of Jews, river to the sea, globalise the Intifada. We know what it means. We know what it means, and it's been allowed. This culture has festered for 2 years, Mr Mayor, and you can talk about being mindful, you can talk about all the platitudes. Look, if there were awards for hand-wringing and platitudes, you'd win them every time, Mr Mayor. You absolutely would. But what we want is action. You talk about Jewish members of our community feeling scared, feeling frightened. The brave men and women of groups like CST and Shomrim, they're not frightened, they're angry that they have to be doing what they're doing because this culture has been allowed to fester in our city, in our country, and we saw what happened on Thursday last week when it's not nipped in the bud. That's what we're seeing in London, what we've seen for the last 2 years. It's not just about last weekend, it's not just about last Tuesday, it's not just about last Thursday. It's happened repeatedly. And the powers are there to intervene. You have the powers under the Public Order Act to intervene, to impose conditions, and if necessary, to stop these marches going ahead. Nobody wants to block the right to protest per se. Certainly none of us on this side of the chamber, but where they cross the line into hatred, into inciting violence, and then that violence has happened as a consequence, that's where we're asking you to intervene, Mr Mayor.
Well, Chair, I must be given a chance to respond to the various assertions made by the member. It's very important. So firstly, there are no powers under the Public Order Act for the Mayor to stop a march or to disrupt a march. It's really important you understand the law if you're going to be the party of government. Point number 2, anti-Semitism didn't begin on October the 7th, 2023. Point number 3, it's arguably the oldest form of hatred known to mankind. Point number 4, I was the Mayor of London that went to synagogues in the weeks preceding the terrorist attack on a synagogue in Pittsburgh in the USA. That was before October the 7th, 2023. I'm also the Mayor who has invested a huge amount of money in educating young people across London about the dangers of anti-Semitism and other forms of hate crime, to teach our young people to be resilient and stoic when it comes to hatred against their fellow citizens because of the colour of their skin or because of the God they worship. I'm also aware about the importance of language, which is why you won't hear me using some of the language members of the Reform Party use, because it encourages, it mainstream, it normalises hatred, which is why, for example, last summer, when there were race riots across the country and they weren't in London, I spent a lot of time with the Jewish community, the Muslim community and others showing solidarity as well. But does he understand the ripples of fear that
as the Intifada really are?
I'm really happy to play semantics with the Reform Party all day long if we're going to compare and contrast words we use in terms of public discourse and debate. Look, I'm quite clear in relation to what happened last Thursday was a heinous terrorist attack. The only reason those people were attacked was because they were Jewish. The only people that place of worship was attacked was because it was a synagogue. We also know, park for a second, it's the most religious day in the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur. Jewish people were fasting and, repenting, not having access to their phone. As soon as word spread about that attack on the synagogue, people were really, really scared. People were staying in their homes and not leaving homes. And what I want to see is people being kind to their neighbours, showing friendship, checking up on their friends, seeing how they're doing, how they're feeling. You can call that mindful, you can call that being a good citizen, you can call that being British, but it's basic humanity. And we can debate words or semantics, but I know, as the Mayor for more than 9 years, how I felt, how I've made Londoners have a sense of belonging, and how the Reform Party has done the opposite.
Back to my question, globalise the Intifada. That is not a mindful thing to say, is it, Mr Mayor?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to get into the definition of semantics, but I can understand how that's felt by Jewish people. Jewish people feel when they hear that you're...
A heated confrontation just exposed 2 years of tension in London. The Mayor was put on the spot, and what he said next sparked outrage. Last Thursday, A synagogue was attacked on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Jewish families stayed inside their homes, terrified. The Prime Minister, Home Secretary, and Education Secretary made the same request. Pause Theocritus this weekend. Show some respect, show some humanity. But London's mayor, he just asked people to be mindful. If you want to see how this political battle unfolds, hit subscribe now. You won't want to miss what happens next. Assembly Member Wilson didn't hold back. He confronted the mayor directly in a public hearing and the room went silent. On a scale of 1 to 10, how mindful do you think chants like globalized Thinifar data really are? The mayor tried to deflect. He talked about his record, his communication, his visits to synagogues. But Wilson wasn't having it. If there were awards for hand-wringing and platitudes, you'd win every time, Mr. Mayor. But what Jewish Londoners want isn't words. They want action. He pointed to the brave volunteers from groups like CST and Shamrim, their community security patrols protecting synagogues, because they feel the city want. They're not frightened anymore, they're angry. Angry that this culture of hatred has been allowed to fester for years in our city. Wilson then dropped the bomb. You have powers under the Public Order Act to impose conditions, even to stop marches, when they cross the line into inciting violence. Nobody wants to block their right to protest. But when protests turn into hatred, when they fuel real violence, like we saw last Thursday, that's when we're asking you to intervene. The mayor fired back immediately. There are no powers under the Public Order Act for the mayor to stop a march. It's important you understand the law if you want to be deputy of government. He reminded Therum that anti-Semitism didn't start on October 7th, 20-3. It's the oldest form of hatred known to mankind. He pointed to his years off work, the millions invested in educating young people about hate crime, his visits to synagogues long before this crisis. But then the mayor did something next. He turned the tables. Do you understand the ripples of fear that far-right marches in central London create for Jewish families, Muslim families, black families? Wilson interrupted. Mr. Mayor, you're asking me question. I'm happy to swap places if you'd like. The room tensed. The mayor doubled down. I want every Londoner to feel loved and wanted, whether you're a member of Reform or not. But let's be clear. The Reform Party signed up one candidate in the last mayoral election, you, and now you've got another who didn't even win an election as a Reform member. The exchange ended abruptly, but damage was done. Both sides claimed victory. Wilson's supporters say the mayor dodged accountability. The mayor's defenders say he exposed Reform's hypocrisy on hate speech. But here's what everyone agrees on. Jewish Londoners are scared. 2 years of protests, inflammatory chants, and now a terrorist attack on a synagogue have left a community feeling abandoned. So, here's my question for you. Did the mayor do enough to protect Jewish Londoners, or has political correctness allowed hatred to fester unchecked? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the political battles shaping our country, subscribe and hit the bell. This story isn't